Okay, Chris, just got the movement completed. I've probably already shown you some pictures of some of the work. So this is it back in the case. This actually takes quite a while to get back in the case with the cable and hooking it up to the calendar movement and finding out what time and what date everything thinks it really is. But I've got it set for today's date. This is Friday the 17th, and got it running here. So I'm just going to go in here and show you what's happening here. I just started it up about 20 minutes ago. Been doing some little things to it. You see the new cable up in there. That's that brass braided cable. We don't use fishing line. We use the right kind of cable. And it goes up and over a pulley and down to this pulley, and that's the weight that's pulling it down. I just barely wound it up. You can see it's not wound very far right here. Just going to test it overnight, and if everything works, and I'll put it all, the rest of it together, the dials and all that, and give it a good test. So this is it working though, and through those little holes you might be able to see the escapement working. So the pendulum on clocks is not running the clock. The clock is running the pendulum. The weight supplies the power and turns the gear, and in this particular clock it turns 3 other gears, ending with this gear that you can see going to the right with pointed teeth. Those are escape wheel teeth, and there's a piece up in there, looks like a seesaw, and it's going back and forth. This is a better view here. And as you stop a pendulum, well, that piece doesn't go back and forth anymore. It just stops right there. The clock is not running, and so on. It stops. When you start the pendulum, that starts that piece going back and forth. It allows a tooth to escape from one gear, from one side of the gear, and a tooth comes crashing into the other side and pushes the pendulum back and forth. So when we hear a clock ticking, that's the pendulum being pushed back and forth, running the clock. So the pendulum is not actually running the clock is running the pendulum. And the length of the pendulum, the reason there is a pendulum is the length of the pendulum is adjustable to make it run faster or slower. And you may ask, why don't they just make it the right length? And I'll give you that answer when I see you. Anyway, so that's how this clock is running. And then there's a long strip down the back here that attaches to the calendar movement down here. I'll go over all this when I see you again. But this is the calendar movement, very complicated, and it appears to be working fine though. Everything on that appears to be working fine, which is good news. I've kind of cleaned up the pendulum where it was all damaged, and I've taken off the rust off of here, this piece right here. And again, I've shown you pictures of all that. That block of wood up there with the 2 screws in it was broken in half. Not sure how that happened, but it was an old break, and I just glued it together again. So anyways, I just give you a little synopsis of what's happened there. And I just started it up. It seems to be running very well. And I won't know about timekeeping until tomorrow, whether it's keeping time or not. We'll just have to see how that works. So that's it, and I'll talk to you soon, probably.